Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Kilayim, new Masechet. Finished Berachot, Demai, now moving on to Kilayim. Kilayim will have a nice amount of math and geometry for us, so exciting, all those that really want to delve into this. Just as a quick intro of what we're going to see in Kilayim. When you think of Kilayim, what do you think of? So the Pesukim in the Torah actually have 5 different types of Kilayim. And we're going to touch upon all of these types of Kilayim in our Masechet. Some of them we're more familiar with, some of them maybe less, but we're going to go through each one of them. We'll start with, first of all, I'll go in the order of the Masechet itself. If we're planting seeds, right? You're planting wheat and you want to plant barley together with it in the same field, right? Are you allowed to plant those seeds together? You're not allowed to plant those seeds together, right? How far do you have to distance from one another if you want to plant those seeds? Similarly, we'll move on to also speaking about vegetables, right? Also falls under the same category of Kilayim. But if you want to, when you're planting vegetables and you have an aruga, you have a garden, how could you set up your garden, right? Where things are, you have a small little garden, how could you plant as many vegetables as you can in this one garden, right? We'll speak about, instances, scenarios like that. Then we'll move on to what we call Kilayim, right? First of all, before we go on there, I'll just point out, where do we get this pasuk? You can't plant your field, Kilayim. That's what we learned the laws of, from that pasuk. That's what we learned all the laws of Kilayim, right? Kilayim literally means a mixture when it comes to seeds. Now, what about the second category? That's going to be what we call Kilayim, a vineyard. You're not allowed to plant also multiple, species in your vineyard as well, along near grapes. That makes it Kilayim. Kilayim has some of the strictest laws. You're not allowed to even benefit from it. It's asur b'hana'ah, right? From Kilayim. We'll see those laws. We'll see also how far you have to distance, a vine if you want to plant it near some, other produce. So that's going to be all the discussion by Kilayim. That's the second category. The third category of Kilayim is by an animal. You're not allowed to crossbreed animals. So crossbreeding is asur. The fourth category is also by animals, but not breeding animals, but we're not allowed to plow with 2 different types of animals. Now we'll see which types of animals are we talking about. The pasuk says, "Lo taharosh b'shor u'b'hamor yachdav," right? With a ox and a donkey together, you're not allowed to plow the field, right? You can't have them both pulling the same plow, but an ox and a donkey pulling that same plow. Now, what does this mean? Is it specific to an ox and a donkey? Does it come to include other animals? We'll discuss all that also. And lastly, the last type of Kilayim, which a lot of us are familiar with, and that is sha'nez. Sha'nez, you're not allowed to have wool and linen in the same garment, right? That's the pasuk, ubeged Kilayim sha'nez lo ya'ale alecha. So those are the 5 different types of Kilayim. We're going to jump into it. Our first couple of perakim are going to speak about, first we're going to speak about what's not Kilayim with one another, right? It's interesting to view down as he always jumps into that, as if we already know the laws of Kilayim. Oh, and these are the things that are not Kilayim with one another. That's how we'll start. And we'll go through different types of seeds. We'll go through vegetables. We'll speak about trees. We'll speak about even breeding different animals, right? These are things that are not Kilayim with one another. We'll speak about things that are Kilayim with one another. Then we'll move on to planting seeds, how far you have to distance them from one another. The next perek, the third perek, will be the aruga, garden, planting vegetables. How close could you plant them from one another? In the following perek, a few perakim, we'll talk about Kilayim in a vineyard, planting, how far you have to distance from one another, what happens if the vine spreads, it grows over the field, how do you treat it? By the way, these laws of Kilayim, right, the ones in the vineyard, Kilayim by the vineyard applies in Chutz La'aretz as well. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful that if someone's planting in his backyard even, and I know of cases where this has happened and people don't realize, right? You cannot have a vine, right, getting too close to some of your other plants. Then we'll move on to crossbreeding, animals and plowing with different animals. And finally, we'll end up with the laws of sha'nez, which we'll discuss in due time. So we're going to jump to the first Mishnah right now.